Majorie, Steve Harvey's wife, is in the spotlight due to accusations of drug trafficking. However, this is just the beginning. Majorie's ex-husband, Jim Townsend, released a book in which he promises to reveal all the secrets and tell the truth about their relationship. Who is Majorie, the wife of the famous musician Steve Harvey? For many years, she was his reliable support and beloved wife. However, what to do with the recent accusations that she is involved in drug trafficking? Will Steve Harvey's marriage be able to withstand new shocks? Hi everyone, and welcome back to Celeb Live channel, and today we are going to talk about the threat hanging over the Harvey family. Gossip has been swirling around them for many years, but right now, everything could end in disaster. For numerous years, Marjorie Harvey, Steve Harvey's spouse, was known for her reticence, letting her role as Steve's third wife take center stage. However, Marjorie's standing as Steve's fashionable girlfriend was recently challenged when her questionable past resurfaced, causing unrest in the entire community. Her past is rife with drug abuse, cocaine trafficking, and a treacherous history filled with lies and deceit, shifting from one criminal to another. At one point, Marjorie was at the center of one of Memphis's biggest drug-related crimes, but she has since moved on to a life of luxury, leaving the wreckage of that lifestyle behind. And the question arises, will Marge be able to escape justice this time? But let's start from the beginning. The relationship between Marjorie Harvey and her first husband, Jim Townsend, was, to say the least, very difficult. The story of their love was riddled with federal investigations by the FBI and Drug Enforcement Administration regarding their alleged involvement in illegal activities. Townsend's activities ultimately caught up with him when he was caught in a secret operation and sentenced to life in prison in 1992 for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute a controlled substance. However, despite his imprisonment, his relationship with Marjorie reportedly remained strong. But just how strong was it? Was she simply his wife or a business partner in his criminal enterprise? She was reportedly under FBI investigation during her marriage to Townsend. Investigators branded Townsend a drug lord, and while Marjorie was never charged with drug-related crimes, her association with Townsend drew unwanted attention to her. One anonymous source claimed that Marjorie was not just his spouse, but an active participant in the criminal underworld. She was involved in planning and executing drug trades and was also responsible for her husband's business finances. When he was arrested and sent to prison, she took over the empire and continued its growth. Marjorie was not a mere spectator while her husband Jim made a fortune through unlawful means. As per Jim's account, she was an active participant in his illicit schemes. However, prior to that, both Marjorie and Jim were the reigning couple of the underground drug storage network in Memphis. Marjorie was enticed by the luxurious cars and substantial bank balance, and before she realized it, she had not only wed Jim, but had also given birth to their two kids, Morgan and Jason. Over time, Marjorie became fully focused on the business and stopped paying attention to her husband. Her visits to the prison became rare and only happened when there was a need to solve business-related problems. She became cold and calculating, leaving all personal relationships with her husband in the past. This couldn't help but affect their relationship. As his wife grew distant, Jim grew increasingly bitter, but remained silent for the sake of their children and family, which no longer existed. While Jim rotted in prison, what did he see? His ex-wife, now known not only as a successful fashion designer and philanthropist, but also as an example of a loving and devoted parent living a luxurious celebrity life, she escaped justice. It was only many years later that Jim Townsend decided to speak out about his experience. He stated that he had no loyalty to Marjorie and that he intended to tell his story whether she knew about it or not. It is reported that Jim's decision to speak out was motivated by his desire to bring clarity to the situation and present his version of events. However, this arrangement wouldn't last for long. It took Jimmy roughly 30 years, give or take, to come clean and ruin everything, as Marjorie sought a way to win the millionaire's heart and shield her children from him. But before delving into the main course, we need to discuss Marjorie's second husband, who was believed to be her first cousin, Darnell Woods, or as some may refer to him, Lori Harvey's biological father. Only 5 years following Jimmy's release, Marjorie, who was pregnant with her second child, grew weary of living in a convict's prison and ended the marriage to start a new one. Darnell Woods was a notorious drug dealer and member of the Memphis mob gang, founded in the 80s during the crack epidemic. He and his family were involved in the biggest drug trafficking in Memphis, Tennessee. They used car washes and nightclubs as hotspots, and their infamous martini room attracted big players, athletes, and anyone else who wanted to join in. Before Darnell met his demise in 1997. Similar to his alleged cousin Jimmy, he and Marjorie had a daughter named Lori. They tied the knot 3 years later but parted ways in 2001. While Marjorie was with Darnell, she maintained contact with Jimmy. Jimmy was the father of her children, and she always answered his calls from prison. However, Marjorie's relationship with Jimmy came to a halt when Steve Harvey re-entered her life. By then, Steve was a divorced man and knew that Marjorie was the one for him. He was financially stable and mentally prepared to take care of a woman like Marjorie. Steve was hosting his talk show, The Steve Harvey Show, and he realized that it was time to win over the lady of his dreams. Although he was married to Mary Shackelford at the time, it didn't stop Steve from pursuing Marjorie. On his popular daytime talk show, Steve advised his audience not to let their wives stand in the way of finding true love. He was still married when he reunited with Marjorie in the early 2000s. Mary claims that Marjorie convinced her son, Winton, to sever all ties with her and that he is currently talking to another woman. Marjorie Harvey, the wife of 2 prominent drug dealers, was involved in the drug trade herself and eventually caught the attention of Steve Harvey. As for the subject at hand, Lori Harvey's impressive skill set is not a mystery. Despite her father Steve being the author of the bestseller Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, it's clear that her mother, who was one of the best in the game, taught her well. In fact, her first husband, Jim Townsend, who knows Lori better than Steve, claims that not only has Lori inherited her mother's skills, but she's also familiar with how to handle tricky situations. Jim, who was released from prison in 2017 after serving a 26-year sentence and was pardoned by President Barack Obama, shares all of this in his new book, Snakes in the Garden, which he has been working on since his release from prison. The book is a real page-turner, filled with bite and revealing details. One excerpt reads, "Morgan was always the apple of my eye, and the only reason I didn't kill her mother. Since Morgan couldn't understand what was happening, she turned her attention back to me and met my gaze, which said, 'Come and get me, Daddy.' There were 3 things that I hated and regretted. The first was the abortion issue, which I'll talk about later. The second was the fact that I allowed Marjorie to convince me to lie to Morgan for 4 years, telling her that I was in Lewisburg and working while I was in prison. Morgan was 8 when I finally told Marjorie and her heartless mother to go to hell and told her the truth." Jim is serious about this honest book, and it seems that his children Morgan and Jason are not bothered by their biological father sharing details about their mother. As far as we can tell, Jim has spent time with them recently at the end of 2022. This could suggest that the Harvey family is going through some turbulence. In the aftermath of Jim Townsend's book release, the Harvey family found themselves embroiled in a media storm. While some fans of Steve Harvey's talk show defended him, many others criticized him for his actions and called for a boycott of his show. Marjorie, for her part, was more concerned about how the book would affect her daughter Lori's burgeoning career in modeling and acting. She feared that the revelations about her past could damage Lori's reputation and lead to lost opportunities. Despite these concerns, Lori remained steadfast in her support of her parents. In a statement released to the media, she said, "I love my parents and will always stand by them no matter what. I am proud of my mother's past and the strength she showed in overcoming her struggles. As for my father, he made mistakes, but he paid for them and has since become a better person. Believe that everyone deserves a second chance. And I hope that people will see that my father has changed for the better." Meanwhile, Steve Harvey remained mostly silent on the matter, choosing to focus on his career and family. He continued to host his talk show and promote his books, but he also spent more time with his children and grandchildren, realizing that family was the most important thing in life. He and Marjorie weathered the storm together, relying on their love and commitment to each other to get through the difficult times. In the end, they emerged stronger than ever, determined to move forward and make the most of every moment. Thank you for watching. We would love to hear your thoughts on Marjorie Harvey and her life story. Please feel free to share your opinions and insights in the comment section below. We appreciate your feedback and value your input. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel for more content. Thank you for your support.